Hey guys, this is Matt Granger, that Nikon guy. Now, a really common question I get from people, and something that I know a lot of people struggle with, I certainly did when I was getting started, was how much should you be charging for your work, your shots, your time, your products that you create as a photographer. It can be really tricky, and I get that people don't want to price themselves too low to look too cheap, or price themselves too high that they put themselves out of the market. Pricing in any kind of field is difficult, and there's a lot of different models of pricing out there, cost plus, aspirational, there's all kinds of different models you can use, and photography really does follow the same principles, and it's not as simple as I can just give you a number to charge, because it's going to depend almost entirely on the market that you're in. By the market, I mean what sort of work you're doing, where you lay in the spectrum of photographers, and what competition you have locally. Of course, you know, a world-leading photographer may fly international to do a big job, but if you're just an everyday Joe doing great work, it's more likely that your city is going to be the primary base for all of your work, so you're probably competing against other photographers in that same city. Then you need to look at what style of photography you're doing and look at what other people are charging. Now, don't feel shy about this, everyone does it. You know, established people may find it a little bit annoying, but the reality is you're going to need to do a little bit of work to find out what others are charging. So have a look around at people who are servicing the same market as you, see the ones that are doing roughly comparable work to you, and see what their pricing packages are, and then have a look at it that way. I really need to stress, don't, sell yourself short for really bargain basement prices. I would personally recommend that you start out assisting people and doing it basically for free until you get your skill level up to a point that you can charge, then charge a decent amount. 2 points of specific advice I'd like to share with you. One, I got given by a seasoned photographer early on in my career, and his advice was, and it's reasonably true, there will be exceptions to this, so it won't fit everyone, but for the majority of everyday photographers, the most you can expect to be shooting if you're a reasonably busy photographer is around about 100 days a year. So you will be doing a lot of admin, a lot of editing, a lot of this, a lot of that, but actually out there shooting, if the sort of work you do is charging people for your time, like going to do a portrait or going to do some architectural photography or that kind of thing, as opposed to going out and doing fine art landscape where you times yourself, then your product is the final product. If you're charging your time in that kind of way, look at about 100 days as your billable hours for the year. So if you decide that, okay, I need, let's make it nice and simple, $100,000 a year to be able to cover my costs and live in the year, then you need to be looking at charging $1,000 a day. That's simple enough, right? And the other thing, people are often really confused about what they should be charging for their prints. Now, it's absolutely true that once you get a great reputation, you can charge more. Even if the work you're turning out is reasonably similar and you're using, the same archival quality paper, and you're using the same camera as the guy next door, and you're using the same printers as the guy next door, once you have a reputation, of course you can charge more. It's really an extension of your time. The point I want to really draw out here is, don't look at what the print lab is charging you to print the cost of your print and then say, okay, I'll double it. That's just ridiculous. Yes, it's reasonably cheap to do a print, but you had to develop your skill over years and years and years to be able to take the shot. You had to buy all the expensive equipment that we use to capture the image. Then you needed to do whatever editing and post-processing you needed to do. You had to build your website, pay your rent, deal with the client, incur all of these expenses, deliver the files to the print lab, go and pick them up, then package it up and post it potentially. That's all your costs as well. And the main thing is all of those things incur significant amounts of time that you also need to account for. If you pay your lab $6 to print an 8x10 and then you charge $12 because that's 100% markup, it's just ridiculous. Do you think any successful painter out there is thinking about how much their canvas and paint costs them? Absolutely not. The question should be, how much should a piece of art this size, created by me with this much experience and with this much skill and care and dedication, cost someone? How much should they be willing to pay for it? How much should they be valuing it? And you need to think about, you know, if it's a one-off, like you've done a portrait shoot for a family and then they're your only market, well, you're not going to sell photos of a family to anyone else. So you might price that one way. Whereas if you're doing fine art stuff, you might say, okay, I'm going to make that a limited edition of 4, 8, 30, 200, whatever, and price those shots accordingly as well. The most important thing is do a little bit of research and look at what other people are doing, see who's actually selling work and price it accordingly. I do get that there's a bit of a thrill from making a sale and you don't want to price yourself too high, but if everyone goes out there and starts charging 20 bucks an hour and $30 for a print, it's not good for the industry, it's not good for anyone, and it does nothing for the reputation of photographers as legitimate artists or as legitimate image makers. It's just any fool with a camera can do it then. Let any fool with a camera charge 20 bucks an hour, and once you have a proper skill set and you can service your clients properly and you have, you know, systems built up where you know how to interact with people and you can deliver your files and, you know, you have your service down pat, then charge accordingly. But don't get giddy and high on the, you know, the $20, $50, $100 sales you might make. Just stop and think about how many $1,000s have you spent on equipment and how many hours and hours and hours and hours of practice, valuing your time at a reasonable rate, has it cost you to build your skill set to actually make that picture. Don't undersell yourself. Hope that's helpful, guys. This is Matt Granger, that Nikon guy.